Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we are recapping all of the week 13 games from the NFL. That's all the Thursday night games all the way up through Sunday night football. We will talk about the Monday night game, which is happening as we're recording this. We will talk about that on Wednesday when we talk about all of our regular things. But we will start here with the first Thanksgiving game. Lions beat the Bears 23 to 20. Lions had a fantastic first half. Their no touchdown allowed streak moved to 12 straight quarters after that first half, where they shut the Bears out. Offense was moving pretty well the entire game, but a ton of credit to the Bears defense. They kept forcing the Lions into field goals. That's how you beat the Lions. You have to be able to stop them in the red zone. They're such a good red zone team. They were 2-5 in this game, 2-4-5 in the red zone in this game. That's their worst since week 2, which was their only loss of the season before they've rattled off 10 straight. Lions ran for nearly 200 yards in this game. They dominated time of possession 35 to 25. That first quarter, they had like over 100 yards. Bears were negative. They were just completely dominating the entire first half. But you get to the second half on defense, you get players hurt every 2 or 3 plays, and the defense just kind of gave up after that. The Lions now have a league high 18 players on IR, most of those on defense. Second most is Cleveland at 14 right now. And let me see, I have the exact list here. I meant to pull up my Twitter because I tweeted about it, but I didn't pull it up before this. So give me 2 seconds to find my own tweet, which maybe will take longer. Okay, no, I got it. Okay, so the Lions' remaining defensive starters from week 1 are Ali McNeil, Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Jack Campbell, and DJ Reader, who didn't play in week 1. Carlton Davis should be back this week, but the injured defensive starters are now Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, and Carlton Davis. And the real problem comes with the backups for all these guys that are hurt, as Malcolm Rodriguez, Josh Pascal, Levi Onwuzurike, Mekhi Wingo, John Kaminsky, Ennis Rakestraw, Kyle Peko, Ife Melifonwu are all hurt at this very moment. The Lions need to get some help in there. They're bringing in Quan Alexander and Jamal Adams to help in the box. I think Jamal Adams is just going to play linebacker. Hopefully, he was working out with the linebackers in practice today. That would be great. He's not a great safety, as we know, but if you can literally make him just a linebacker, he's going to fill exactly what the Lions need right now. And Quan Alexander, if they can get anything out of him, I know him and AG, as well as Jamal Adams and AG, are very close. If you can get anything productive out of those two guys, that's an absolute W. Zadarius Smith, who the Lions traded for at the trade deadline, was banged up in this game a little bit, but he continues to be so good for the Lions as a defensive end. Him and Hutch next year, I'm already thinking about it. They're going to be such a dominant duo next year. Zadarius Smith easily became the best edge rusher on this team when he got traded. But between the bad fumble inside the 5 by Jahmyr Gibbs, settling for field goals, injuries on defense, just about everything went wrong for the Lions at points in this game, but they still end up getting the win. Lions have to hope they can withstand these injuries because I'm convinced at this point that injuries are the only thing that's going to stop this team from making it to the Super Bowl. I really do think that, and I hope that a lot of these guys can come back and get healthy. Unfortunately, some of them, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Hutch, are not coming back, but Lions, they end their 3 games in 12 days streak with Green Bay on Thursday, and then they get a mini bye before the Bills game. But 3 straight home games here. This one next week against the Packers, and then the Bills in 2 weeks is huge for the Lions. They should be able to hopefully get one of the two between Green Bay and the Bills, and I'll be happy with that, especially with all these injuries. Talking about the Bears a bit, that ending of the game was one of the craziest things I've seen in a long time. You see that Caleb Cole changes the play at the line with 19 seconds left. Clock continues to run. They have a timeout. They don't call it. They're in field goal range. They end up snapping the ball with 5 seconds left, and he has to basically chuck a Hail Mary to try to win the game. So that was an unbelievable end of the game. The Lions luck out with so much stuff going wrong in the second half, but they still find a way to win. Unfortunately, the Packers, the Vikings, the Eagles keep on winning. So the Lions have a very real chance of winning 15 games this year and getting the 2 seed. There's a very real chance of that happening. I hope that doesn't happen, but hopefully they can start getting some help from these other teams here.
Yeah, just a disaster ending for the Bears. Again, they have another one-score game. They have a chance to go down and potentially tie and force overtime or win. They looked like they were in a great spot. They're moving the ball, and then all of a sudden, you just took way too much time off the clock. I think there was 32 seconds left when they had finished the play, and then they only had that one play off as time expired. It was embarrassing. It was terrible by Eberflus. Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams, all three of them played a part in it. It wasn't just Eberflus's fault for it, but we do see him get fired. He's took him, I think, in my opinion, about 6 months too late. More than that, about 12 months too late. He should have been fired after last season, but they finally do that now. Most likely, well, there will be a new head coach for Caleb Williams next season unless it is just Thomas Brown promoted all the way up to head coach from whatever he was. I think passing game coordinator maybe before that. He had a good game, threw for 256 yards, three touchdowns. Was rough in the first half, but he really picked it up in the second half. They started moving the ball well. Really, no run game. They were had to pass on this Lions defense, but they got it done. Keenan Allen had two touchdowns in this game. DJ Moore added one. For the Lions, they dominated that first half. It wasn't close at all. 16-0 going into halftime. Just didn't really have it offensively in the second half. Ran the ball pretty well, 194 yards against the Bears defense. I'd said going into the game, this Bears defense has been struggling recently. We saw that in the first half, but in the second half, they looked a little bit better. The Lions were toying with them a little bit in the first half with Penei Sewell getting a pass attempt counted as a sack. Would have loved to see him if he actually threw the football or ran it. But good win for the Lions. They finally get a win on Thanksgiving after 8 years. Had some uncharacteristic things happen, like a Jahmyr Gibbs fumble, but they were able to get it done, and 11-1 now.
Okay, moving on here to the second Thanksgiving game. Cowboys beating the Giants 27-20. This game was as boring as advertised. Cowboys actually finally had a successful run game for the first time this year, which was crazy to see. We're still waiting to kind of see that from the Raiders, who were actually okay this week. But Drew Lock had to fill in for Tommy DeVito. He had an okay game here, wasn't anything special. Giants' run game has completely fallen off a cliff with no Andrew Thomas. Tyrone Tracy, I do believe, is a good back, and I think he's going to be pretty good next year. But he has really been not able to find much success with this offensive line. Cowboys, they put up points, but most of these points came from their defense making plays and getting them in good field position or the one pick six that they had. Their offense was not fantastic, but their defense played out of their minds. They've been a lot better since Micah Parsons came back. It's a big reason why they're starting to win some games now. This game, though, overall couldn't matter less in the grand scheme of things. The Giants currently hold the number two pick in the draft, which is big for them. If they can hopefully get up there and maybe get a Shadur or a Cam Ward for going forward for them, that would be great. But Cowboys, they now sit at the 14th overall pick after having back-to-back pointless wins here. If you're a Cowboys fan, you can't be too. I mean, it's nice to win these divisional games, especially last week against a good Commanders team. But these are really pointless wins. You're just making your draft pick worse. You're not going to make the playoffs. You don't have your quarterback right now, so I think the Cowboys should probably start losing some games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Like you said, they have a good run game on the ground. Rico Dowdle, he's been the lead back and has a solid game here with 112 yards on the ground. Cooper Rush was solid, just didn't throw any interceptions. They didn't turn the ball over. They relied on their defense to get it done, and they did. DeMarvion Overshone made an incredible play. He got a pick six off Drew Lock. He was good. Drew Lock had a nice scramble run for a touchdown, 28 yards, but other than that, really wasn't too successful against this Cowboys defense that has been playing better overall in the past recent weeks. Micah Parsons getting back is probably a huge, obviously, it's a huge addition. He had a sack and a half in this game. But yeah, pretty pointless game. Cowboys get it done. They're able to run the ball. Really not much CeeDee Lamb in this game. Two catches for 39 yards. Had a couple of drops. Just not a game you would expect to see from him. Pretty disappointing for him to do that on a national stage on Thanksgiving Day. But they get the win, and I guess it's nice for the Cowboys to win on Thanksgiving. But like you said, yeah, it's only hurting their draft stock at this point. And they finally got to win at home, though. I guess that's
Yeah, finally
one in
broke that
five.
streak. Now they're gonna go on a 8 game win streak at home and then get a game given to them and then go back on a losing streak will probably be the next couple events to happen for them. But this is actually crazy. I'm looking at the Packers game here as we move on here to Packers beating the Dolphins 30-17, and the number one ad on my screen is Toyota.
Uh-oh.
It doesn't say anything about Toyotathon, but it says Dear Seasons. So maybe Toyotathon is coming. I don't know what kind of sign this is from them, but McDaniel in this game, he said he likes narratives and proving narratives wrong, and that absolutely did not happen on Thursday night. It all started with a Dolphins mistake. They muffed a punt after forcing a three and out to start the game, and it was all downhill from there. Packers defense looked a lot like they did earlier on in the year in this game, forcing short drives, holding teams to field goals whenever they finally put a drive together, and they were able to do that in this game. Packers had multiple great offensive drives coupled with the muffed punt, which was basically a free touchdown for them, and that helped them take that massive lead at half. But their offense stalled pretty bad in the second half. Luckily for them, the cushion that they built in that first half really carried them throughout. While the Dolphins' offense has heated up again over the past few weeks, as we've been talking about on here, which is what made this game interesting going in, their run game has struggled the entire season, whether it's with or without Tua. And this was a game where they needed to be able to run the ball, and I wish I would have thought of that point before we made our picks. Penalties in this game really killed the Dolphins as they weren't able to play in the cold. It turns out they still cannot play in the cold. For the Packers, you get another win, move to 9-3, still third in their division at 9-3, which is just ridiculous. But they get the Lions on Thursday. That's no doubt the biggest game of the year for them at Detroit. Already lost once at home to them, got blown out at home to the Lions. They need to go get a win against the Lions and make this division closer and put them in a better spot. But there's going to be a team that probably gets pretty screwed coming off of their division win. They're going to have to play the Packers and or the Vikings, and that is just brutal for whoever does that. But I'm looking at the AFC or the NFC West winner and the NFC South winner as two teams who are in real danger if they have to match up with the Packers and the Vikings going forward here.
Yes, another great win by the Packers at home. They dominated this game pretty much from start to end. The cold weather, I was hoping the Dolphins would finally change that narrative. I thought the way they finished last week going into this week, they would have really wanted to change that narrative, but it just did not happen. Every time they panned the camera to Mike McDaniel, it looked like he was about to lose a limb from hypothermia. He was freezing on the sideline. Tua's stats were solid. He threw for 365 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. But like you said, they really couldn't run the football at all. 39 total yards on 14 carries. Just no run game. In the receiving game, they got the ball to Tyreek Hill finally. He finally finds the end zone after a long stretch of not being there. 6 catches, 8 yards, and a touchdown. Jonnu Smith has kind of been the lead target for this Dolphins team. He has 10 catches and 113 yards, and Devon Achane also continues to just be a weapon out of the backfield for the Dolphins, but just a very disappointing game on both sides of the ball. This Dolphins defense has been humming in recent weeks, and they go and play the Packers, and Jordan Love in the run game with Josh Jacobs kind of dominated them. Love threw for almost or 275, two touchdowns, no picks, didn't get sacked. He was good in this game. Maybe Toyotathon started, and I just don't know. Josh Jacobs gets a rushing touchdown and was great in the receiving game with 74 yards receiving. Tucker Kraft has been a weapon for this Packers. Sometimes he'll go quiet, but here he has a big game, had 7 targets, and the Packers defense were really able to slow down the Dolphins, got a couple stops in the red zone, and a good win for the Packers. And they're trying to keep pace, but I mean, yeah, there's nothing you can do when 11-1 and 10-2 in your division, and you're sitting at third. It's just unfortunate.
Well, there is something they could do because they do get to play both those teams
Yeah,
going
true.
forward, so they definitely can get wins. They should be able to beat the Bears pretty easily at home too. So they got some winnable games and some games they need to win going forward. So we'll see how that takes place, especially on Thursday night next week. But moving on here to the Black Friday game, the Chiefs beating the Raiders 19-17. Raiders showed some fight in Arrowhead again, but the Chiefs' magic was just too much. AOC passed all over this Chiefs secondary. The Chiefs secondary is starting to become a little bit of a problem here. It's kind of a liability. I know they only put up 17 points in this game, the Raiders did, but we're seeing the Chiefs being able to stuff any team in the run, but they've struggled in the pass game. If a team can start to formulate a run game against them in any game this year, they're going to be in some trouble. Brock Bowers is dominating. He's already probably a top five tight end in the league. He's just been phenomenal. There's only like a few receivers in the league that have more yards than him. He's everything that everybody expected him to be coming out of college. Carlson for the Raiders missing multiple field goals just continues to add to this Chiefs magic. It's crazy that he missed some of those. He's one of the most automatic kickers, and that was just wild to see. Raiders played good enough to win this game, but when you're playing against the great teams, little things hurt so badly. Bad penalties, missed field goals, missed assignments just hurt so badly when you're playing against a team like the Chiefs. 101 penalty yards for the Raiders is just not going to cut it. That's going to hurt you in any game against a good team. Chiefs, though, they only have one freebie game left. They play the Browns and then four tough games versus Chargers, Texans, Steelers, and Broncos. Chargers, I believe, have to go into Arrowhead, but the Chargers' play style is going to be good enough to be able to compete in Arrowhead against the Chiefs if they can somehow find a way to run against them. And then Texans, Steelers, Broncos are three great teams there. So Chiefs are going to have some games coming forward here. I think there's definitely a chance they can go out there and put up a 16-1 season. I think they probably drop at least one of these, maybe two, and finish with two or three losses, but they're in a good spot. If the unless the Bills win out, they're probably still going to get the one seed, but who knows because Bills still have that tiebreaker.
Yeah, Bills have that tiebreaker, and I don't know. I just don't know how this Chiefs team does it. We saw the Raiders driving late, getting into field goal range with the chance to win, and AOC accidentally. I don't know if they said it was just miscommunication, but the ball is snapped and a fumble happens, and the Chiefs recover it, and the Chiefs go on to win the game. Don't know how they do it, and there was also a thing of flag on the play for illegal formation, but it looked like they were trying to blow the play dead for a false start. I don't know. But the Chiefs get it done again regardless. It doesn't matter. They win. Mahomes throws for 300 plus yards, no interceptions, gets a touchdown. They get Isaiah Pacheco back this week. He was solid. He only got 7 carries, so a little bit of a lighter load, but 44 yards on those carries was much better than Kareem Hunt's 15 on the same amount of carries. So he was good. DeAndre Hopkins has a great game, is becoming a very good weapon for this team. Gets 90 yards. Kelsey was solid as well. But watching this game, the big thing was Brock Bowers was just dominant for the Raiders. I almost want to say he's a top three tight end right now. I think he's top 10 in total receiving yards this season. He gets 140 yards on 10 catches and a touchdown, 14 targets. He was elite. AOC was looking for him all game and kept hitting him. Solid game from AOC. Just like you said, this Raiders team really has no run game. Get 116 yards, a couple big runs by Sincere McCormick and Amir Abdullah, but other than that, not much going there. And the Raiders sitting at 2-10, we kind of know what they are. I'm assuming they'd go for a quarterback in the offseason. I think AOC is a solid quarterback. I think he's a backup, but whatever quarterback does end up going there, they have a really good weapon in Brock Bowers.
Okay, moving on here to the Sunday game, starting with the Texans beating the Jaguars 23-20. Texans played with their food once again in this game, but they got away with it. Texans offense still seems to be in this slump. Outside of the O-line, it's pretty unexplainable because they're able to run the ball well. They have a great quarterback. They have some solid weapons, even with Diggs hurt. But it's just wild to see them go into this full-on slump they've been in for the past month and a half, almost 2 months now. Texans punt for most of the first half, but their defense was able to hold up and get stops. Trevor Lawrence gets hurt on a late hit from Aziz Al-Shaair, who left the game. Trevor Lawrence left the game as well as Aziz Al-Shaair got thrown out. He's probably going to get suspended as well, even though he did put out a notes app apology on Twitter. Texans were able to put touchdown drives together in the second half, but then their defense started allowing scores as well. That's kind of seems to be what happens when a team struggles on offense and then gets a ton of stops. Once they start scoring, their defense lets up a little bit, and that's kind of what happened in this game. Mac Jones played pretty well in this game given the situation, especially late. He gave his team a chance to win with some big throws on that last touchdown drive to cover the spread. Texans defense continues to be a very encouraging unit, but their offense is just getting bad. They're inefficient on third down. They're inefficient in the red zone. And their defense is just, or their offense is just getting away with this because their defense has been so good and they don't turn the ball over much despite not having a great offense right now. If they start turning it over or their defense starts giving up points, they're gonna be in big trouble. They need to continue to lean on those strengths and just find a way to put up some points. They got the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the Ravens in the next 3 games. That's going to be a very difficult stretch if they can't score points in those games. I think they get at least one. I think they find a way to beat either the Dolphins or the Chiefs. I think the Ravens probably still get them, but those are 3 big games for them. They absolutely cannot go 0-3, especially if the Colts go on a run here with one of the worst strength schedules in the league. So Texans are definitely in trouble. Hopefully their defense can continue to play lights out until they somehow get out of this slump if they do.
Yeah, and we've seen it all season in the games that they've turned the ball over. They've managed to lose some of those games. Stroud was solid in this game, got the ball to his top weapon, Nico Collins, who ever since he's returned has been fantastic. 8 catches, 119 yards. He was the main weapon. On the ground, they really only gave Joe Mixon the ball, 100 yards and a touchdown. That's a good number for the Texans. When he gets 100 plus yards, they tend to win football games. For the Jags, it's been just a terrible 12 months, 13 months for this team. Trevor Lawrence has been struggling, and we see here he gets knocked out of the game. He's probably, I don't want to say he's out for the season, but I would expect potentially an IR stint, which pretty much puts him out for the season. Mac Jones came in and played solid, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Didn't really have a great run game, but he got the ball to some weapons. Parker Washington has emerged a little bit for them in the absence of Gabe Davis and who's the other? Is it Calvin Ridley? No. Was he? Who am I missing? Gabe
Brian Thomas
Davis,
Jr. Oh,
Christian Kirk, who's out. Brian Thomas Jr. has been great for this team as
yeah.
well. Four catches. He had a big 56-yard touchdown in this game as well. He's been good. But you're sitting at 2-10. You really don't have a direction. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence is your franchise quarterback, but it'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. And that Texan schedule is very, very rough. With the way they're playing, uh, I don't know if they can. I think this Dolphins team is going to know they have to win that game. They kind of have their backs against the wall. They have to win out. So I can see that being a tough one, but uh, they should at least win that Titans game. Um, that'd be big.
Okay, speaking of the Titans, we'll move on here to the Commanders beating the Titans 42 to 19. Washington was just done with the bullshit that they've been doing the past few weeks, and they took it all out on the Titans. This was the Commanders from earlier on in the season, just dominating bad teams, beating the shit out of teams that went up 21 nothing in the first quarter of this game. Tony Pollard struggled in this one. I thought he'd have a good game, but they were just down so much early that they weren't able to play through him like they wanted to. Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez, though, both run for 90 plus yards. Brian Robinson looks to be healthy again. Hopefully, he can continue to play in these games. Commanders were able to limit the Daniels passing attempts and just run the shit out of the ball. It worked well for them. I I think they might try to do if Daniels is as injured as he may be. I think they might try to run as much of an Eagles offense as they can, just take the ball out of his hands, have him make good throws, have him make plays with his feet, but mainly run the ball with Chris Rodriguez and Brian Robinson as much as they could. They were able to in this game. Terry had a couple touchdowns. He's having his best season as a pro right now. He's been great with Jaden Daniels. I look for him to continue to be a top receiver in this league. He's been one of the best in football this year. Daryl Worley had 17 tackles for Tennessee. That's not going to really get talked about, but those are crazy numbers. Commanders defense was able to stifle this bad Tennessee offense, and the Commanders just put this one away early. They're in a good spot now, though, 8-5 going into their bye in Week 14. I'm jealous of this late bye that they get to have. They're in a good spot. They could be in a better spot if they can find a way to beat Philly. I don't know if they will. Or is that game in Washington though?
I think in it's in Philly.
Oh, okay, so
Or
that's
no, it's in Washington. It's in
yeah,
Washington.
okay, so that's better for them. They could win that game. For Tennessee, though, they currently have the sixth pick. They sit about where they were at last year, which, if you're the Titans, there's a lot of three-win teams right now. Some that haven't had their bye yet, like the Patriots. So you definitely still have a chance to move up here as the season progresses, especially Tennessee playing in the AFC South. Your strength of schedule isn't going to be crazy at the end of the year, so you'll probably have some tiebreakers with a lot of these teams. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure they beat the Jets. Or no, the Jets beat them. So they should be good to be able to hop the Jets if they have the same amount of wins. Tennessee could finish with the top 3 to 5 pick. That's what they want. But if they can continue to do what they did last week and hang in these games, they're going to be in a tough spot. So if you're the Titans, just keep on losing.
Yeah, Commanders jumped out to a big lead here quick, 21 nothing in the first quarter. Jane Daniels looked good. Their offense looked pretty good. Their defense had a little bit of a bounce back game. They slowed down that Titans offense in the first half, but uh, Brian Robinson was great on the ground as well. Chris Rodriguez Jr. gets in on the action. The Commanders are blowing him out. They gave a lot of guys the ball on the ground. Terry McLaurin has a huge day, 2 touchdowns on 73 yards and 8 catches. He was great. It was nice to see this Commanders offense really get going. They had been settling for a lot of field goals pretty much all season, but we see them 6 touchdowns in this game. Very good for them there. For the Titans, I expected them to keep it close. I thought the Commanders had been struggling, and the Commanders, this really was just a statement game by them. And Cliff Kingsbury did a phenomenal job. He seems to be a head coaching candidate again, so good for him there. Titans couldn't run the ball in this game. Dan Quinn's defense was very good. Nick Westbrook Akine continues to be a stud for this Titans team. I think he might like lead the NFL in touchdowns in like the last 9 weeks. He gets 2 touchdowns in this game on 3 catches. If he catches it, it's pretty much a touchdown or bust for him. And yeah, no run game. Will Levis looked all right, had a couple nice throws, but the Commanders needed to issue a statement here, and they did. So, good win.
Okay, moving on here to the Seahawks beating the Jets 26 to 21. Seahawks offense struggled again, but their defense bailed them out in this game. Jets came out very strong. They were moving the ball with ease. They were about to go up 3 scores, and then they throw a pick six in the red zone, and it was all bad from there. The Jets didn't score a single point after that pick six. Seahawks, although they had similar struggles in this game as they had last week, they found a way to score a late touchdown and win this game. They've done that like 3 straight weeks now, going back to that Niners game. Jets remain dead despite looking like a real football team in the first quarter of this game. They just find a way to lose as they've been doing. And the Seahawks are the opposite. They have a hold on the West now. They're finding ways to win these games late. I still think they will be in trouble if they're one of the teams that has to match up with any of the wild card NFC North teams, whoever it may be. I said Jets or Vikings earlier, but really, I mean, despite being 11-1, it could be the Lions still. But whoever comes out of that NFC North as the buys will probably play the Seahawks team, and the Falcons or the Bucks, and those teams I think will be in trouble. But still, the Seahawks are finding ways to win these games. The Seahawks have the eighth hardest strength of schedule remaining, so they're gonna have to continue to find ways to win in these tough games. But 7-5 is good, and they've been a streaky team this year, but they're currently hot.
Yeah, they currently are very hot right now, and the Jets are not. You said it, they just had a great start to this game. They were up, and then that interception to Leonard Williams, of all people, gets the Seahawks going in this game. And after that, the Jets were shut down. We saw Rodgers to Devontae Adams looking very good early in this game. Devontae got a touchdown. Garrett Wilson was quiet. The run game for the Jets was quiet after that little burst early, and just another disappointing loss for the Jets. Rodgers didn't look great, especially after that interception. He struggled. The offensive line struggled, and the Seahawks defense took over the game. Geno Smith threw the ball well, 200 yards, a touchdown, didn't turn the ball over. Didn't really have a run game either. It was a little bit of a defensive battle. The pick six was just a big turning point in this game. JSN continues to be a very good weapon for the Seahawks team. And going forward for them, I think they're sitting in first place. They have a huge game against the Cardinals next week. If they can win that, they'd have both of the games on the Cardinals. And after that, it's Packers, Vikings, Bears, Rams. So just a lot of challenge games. I wouldn't say the Bears are easy. The Vikings and Packers are obviously two very hard teams. And then that Rams game could be very, very important. We've seen the 49ers continue to struggle, so who knows if they'll be able to figure it out or what, but this NFC West is kind of still up for grabs.
Okay, moving on here to the Colts beating the Patriots 25-24. Colts win this one late, going for two to win with 12 seconds left in the game. Both offenses were putting on a clinic in the first half and stalled out late. That's not at all what I expected. I expected this to be a defensive matchup and a game where Drake May and the Patriots struggle on offense, but they had it going in the first half. They scored on their first 4 drives of the game. Both interceptions hurt the Colts, but the Pats put up just 3 points on those 2 interceptions, so they weren't able to capitalize on the turnovers. Colts continue to generate a pass rush, which is what they've been doing for weeks now, and this battle line was not able to stop them. Colts went 3 for 4 in the red zone. Patriots went 2 for 6. That ended up being the difference. If you get to the red zone 6 times, you got to score at least 3 touchdowns, or you're going to be in trouble, especially against a team that the Colts figured out how to put up points in the second half. So it was tough for them, or the first half. So it was tough for the Patriots not scoring on those red zone opportunities. Time management felt a little odd for the Colts late. It ended up working out. If they didn't win, I really didn't. I mean, I understood what you're doing. You don't want to leave them any time to come back, and you go for a touchdown late. But they did really, really drag it out. Worked out for Steichen and them. Colts remain alive though in the playoffs at 6-7 with the easiest strength of schedule remaining in football. It might not be the easiest anymore. No, Jacksonville's under them, so second easiest, but Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Indy, all of the worst, the easiest strength schedules remaining. So the Colts are in a spot where they can make a playoff run. It would have helped them a lot if they could have gotten a win from the Jaguars beating the Texans in that close game, but they were not able to help them out. The Colts situation remains though. You probably got to win out.
Yeah, but it's most important they get a bye next week, but after that it's the Broncos. They play the Broncos, and that's basically a playoff game. I think there's only 8 teams right now with above I think it's like 3% chance to make the playoffs. I think the Colts are at 17 and the Broncos are at 24. I wish I could find that. It's the AFC is pretty much already set for the playoffs. But Anthony Richardson in this game was solid. First half, he looked very good. The Colts were moving the ball well. They were able to get in the end zone, which was the difference maker in this game. The Patriots, they moved the ball very well. Drake May was fantastic in this game. They moved the ball great. His interception was kind of just a Hunter Henry drop, and the ball just landed in Julian Blackmon's hands. And another red zone turnover for the Colts defense. Patriots, when they got to the red zone, just too many field goals and that turnover is really the reason they lost. They were probably the better team overall in this game. I'd say they moved the ball well. Their defense struggled to stop the run of the Colts a little bit, but they slowed down Anthony Richardson in the second half. But a 19 play drive to end the game for the Colts was exactly what they needed. He had one or two really bad throws on that last drive, but he didn't let it bother him. He kept playing. Had two terrible drops on the last drive, one by Kylan Granson and one by A.D. Mitchell. Don't know how that continues to happen for the Colts, that they continue to drop. And it's people say he throws the ball too hard, and that could be the reasoning for these drops. But if you actually watch, he's just lobbing. Like these are touch passes that A.D. Mitchell dropped, that Kylan Granson dropped. Last week we saw Drew Ogletree just let one hit off his face mask. It's not. I haven't really seen one where he just threw the ball too hard, and it's the NFL. They should still be able to catch it. Michael Pittman was okay in this game. The Colts kind of just ran by committee in the receiving. They didn't really have too many receiving yards to get, only 109 yards passing. But Richardson gets 3 total touchdowns. He played well, made some throws, like I said, that were dropped. The tight end room for the Colts needs to change. For the Patriots, I almost consider this an ideal game for them right now. They're sitting at 3-10. Drake May looked like the future. He looked incredible. He was throwing the ball all over the field to guys like Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, Keyshawn Boutte, Kendrick Bourne. I mean, these aren't guys that are you hope to see in his career in the next 2 years. Maybe Hunter Henry, and that's it. But he was great in this game. They ran the ball for 200 yards. It's rough to lose. They tried to go for a 68-yard field goal to win it, but Joey Sly came up short. Nice win for the Colts, and that game coming out of the bye is a playoff game.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy cope with your receivers dropping footballs saying that your quarterback throws the ball too hard.
Yeah,
That's
well,
wild.
that's
I
just
mean,
certain people in
gotta
the
gotta
media.
gotta be able to catch it. But moving on here to the Vikings beating the Cardinals 23-22. Cardinals defense played so well in this game as expected, but their offense failed them once again. Cardinals were moving the ball fine versus this good defense, but they go 1 for 6 in the red zone, settled for all those field goals in the first half, and it felt like it was going to come back to bite them, and it eventually did. Cardinals did what they wanted to do. They ran all over them, but they just couldn't cash in on points. 10-3 in penalties for Arizona. That was just absolutely brutal, especially on the road against a good team. You can't commit a ton of penalties, and you have to convert in the red zone, and they were able to do neither of those. Cardinals led for most of this game, but an interception after going up 19-13 put them in a really tough spot, and it was tough sailing for them after that. My skepticism of the Vikings offense does remain, though. They were bad for most of this game here. Cardinals needed this game to have a good lead on the West. The West is really up in the air now, especially with the Seahawks winning. Cardinals do have the 28th remaining strength of schedule. I believe it's moved up. They have the 27th now. Should be in a good spot to win this division regardless because of that schedule, especially with the Seahawks having the eighth hardest. But you still have to go win those games. You still have to go play them. Vikings once again survive, and they are on the Lions' ass right now at 10-2. Vikings do have the fourth hardest strength of schedule remaining, them and the Lions, and of course the Packers all have hard strength of schedules remaining. But we'll see if the Vikings can keep this magic up because despite sitting at 10-2, they haven't looked great offensively the last month or so.
They have not. Sam Darnold in this game was solid, 2 touchdowns. Got the ball to Justin Jefferson. We saw last week he was very quiet. No run game really at all for the Vikings in this game. The Cardinals, they did a great job shutting it down. Only 68 yards on the ground for the Vikings. Kyler Murray was solid in the first half, but late in this game just made some errant throws in the second half. Finished with 2 interceptions on two just throws that you cannot have against the Vikings defense. They're going to capitalize, and they did. They escape with another win, 10-2, 5-1 at home now. Cardinals really would have liked this win to stay on pace with the Seahawks, but now they got a big game next week against them. They ran the ball decently well with James Conner, Trey McBride. We've seen a couple tight ends really stand out this season. We talked about Brock Bowers, Tucker Kraft a little bit, but Trey McBride as well. 12 catches, 96 yards, and I don't know, does he have a touchdown this season? I don't think he does. Yeah, no touchdowns so far this season for Trey McBride, but he's been one of the best tight ends in the NFL. On the other side, for that Cardinals, the Vikings defense played well. They look good, and they continue to win games, Brian Flores is most likely going to be a pretty sought after head coach in the offseason. And going forward, they're only one game behind the Lions. They play them in the last week of the season. That could be huge, but they still got the Packers as well. The Seahawks are going to be a rough team to beat, and we saw them struggle with the Bears. So they should be able to beat the Falcons with how Kirk Cousins has been playing. But maybe he turns it on and gets a revenge game next week. We'll see.
Okay, I think I forgot to mention though, I believe if my math is correct, if the Lions win on Thursday, they cannot fall below the Packers. I'm not positive because it'll be a two-game lead with four remaining, or it'll be a three-game lead with four remaining and the tiebreaker.
Yeah,
So I
so
think
they
it's
wouldn't be
basically
able to.
locked up if they could win. So it's a huge game for both teams. But moving on here to Steelers Bengals in division 44 to 38. The Steelers win this one. What a game this was. Both teams were just trading scores basically the entire game, especially in the first half. Both defenses had touchdowns in this game. Russell Wilson throws a pick six and then goes on to have his best game probably since Seattle, 414, three touchdowns. He was dominant in this game. The Steelers have been so good since he took over. They were good before, but they've been much better offensively since he took over. Steelers defense won this game despite giving up so many points. They won this turnover battle 3-0. They won the punt battle 2-1, which in a game like this was very important. Bengals, though, their season's pretty much over now with a loss here. There's a lot of cope online, people saying that there's still a chance for them to make it at 9-8, but I just don't see that happening, and I just don't see them going 9-8, honestly. Steelers are proving they're a force to be reckoned with. The Ravens' loss now against the Eagles gives the Steelers a two-game lead on the division over Baltimore, and they have a win over Baltimore. So they have a really good shot of taking that two or three seed in the AFC. I know the Chiefs have one loss and the Bills have two losses, but I believe the Steelers played the Chiefs, and I don't think they played the Bills, but I'm pretty sure they played the Chiefs. Yeah, they played the Chiefs. So, and they also get to play the Ravens. They have to play Philly. So they have a tough schedule remaining here, outside of Cincinnati and Cleveland. But Steelers are in a great spot. I think they end up with probably minimum the three seed at this point. I don't think the Texans are going to pass them up. So Steelers are playing with house money. Another winning season for Mike Tomlin, and they're in a great spot.
They are in a great spot. This Bengals team continues to be let down by that defensive side of the ball, giving up 44 points, 414 yards, three touchdowns, and one pick for Russell Wilson. The pick was just an unfortunate play where it could have been a flag, but it wasn't called. The Bengals get a pick six on it. I think 414 yards was like his second most total yards in his career. He was great in this game. Spread the ball out a lot. We saw Pat Freiermuth with 68 yards, Pickens 74, Warren out of the backfield with 55, Najee with 54. Just an all-around great game by the Steelers offense. They moved the ball all over this Bengals defense. Really no answer by anyone on that team, and just an embarrassing performance from the Bengals again. The Steelers, I think, have a very good record against the Bengals. Another one of the AFC North little quirks that we've seen. Joe Burrow again has a solid game, puts up 31 points. He gets three touchdowns and a pick. Had a solid run game with Chase Brown, who's been very good for them, 70 yards and a touchdown. Got the ball to both of his top weapons. Just his defense continues to let him down. And a couple fumbles by him as well did not help. But going into the offseason, this Bengals team is going to have a lot of decisions to make on who they want to keep. T. Higgins, the receivers, they need to get some help on the O line, and it's not even a question that that defense needs a complete revamp. But big win by the Steelers, and they got a rough schedule, but I can still see them. I kind of see them finishing with about five losses, I think,
Yeah, somewhere around there. I agree. But
which could still win them their division.
yeah, I think I mean, especially if they could beat the Ravens. If they beat the Ravens, they got
It's
the
over.
division. But moving on here to Chargers beating the Falcons 17-13. Chargers had to muck this game up to win, and that's exactly what they did. They're able to win this game without having a run game. Dobbins on IR hurt them badly in this game. I hope for them that doesn't hurt them going forward. A lot of people were saying Dobbins was just a victim of the or a beneficiary of this system here with the running offense, but they looked a lot different with him not in there. Kirk throws four interceptions, zero touchdowns. It's I hate to say I told you so, but Kirk has been bad. He's been very bad. I expected this Falcons team to still win the division despite not being high on Kirk because I was very confident in their defense. I was confident in their weapons, their O line, their run game. but so much around them. They haven't been able to get to the pass rush, or they haven't been able to get to the quarterback. They haven't been great in pass defense this year. And when you couple that with a quarterback who's not playing well, old quarterback coming off of a torn Achilles, he has not looked good. I wonder if he would have gotten this contract if he was playing like this and not like the greatest quarterback of all time, apparently, in that 8 week stretch. But Loud McConkey played one of his best games as a rookie, 9 for 117 for him. Falcons defense played one of their best games of the season, but they just could not withstand the horrible spots they were being put in by Kirk in this offense. Chargers have a top three defense, if not better, in football right now. They're playing so well. I believe they have the number one scoring defense. When I was saying the Lions were the number one scoring defense, I was wrong. I'm pretty sure they were second at that time. I think they still are second, and the Chargers are number one. Young Koo for the Falcons is missing way more kicks than usual as of late. Granted, many of the kickers in the league have been doing that, but he's been so automatic. We were hyping him up for a lot of the time earlier on in the year. I think we might have even picked him as a stud one week, but he struggled recently. Atlanta's now down to 6-6. I believe they lost three in a row, and Tampa Bay is sitting there at 6-6, lurking right now. Even though the Falcons have the tiebreaker, it doesn't matter if you have a worse record. So Chargers, though, they're up to 8-4. They get to play the Raiders and the Patriots in the next couple games here. I don't know if they're the next couple games, but I know they play the Raiders and the Patriots at some point. Let's see. Um, no, because they go into KC next week, but they play Raiders and the Patriots to end the year, so they just have that stretch with KC, Tampa, and Denver. If they could win two of those games, they're in a great spot. They're probably out of it for the division because of how good the Chiefs have been, but I wouldn't say they're completely out of it. Maybe if the Chiefs' luck diminishes a little bit, but they're going to be at least one of the top wild card teams. Them and whoever doesn't win the AFC North.
Yeah, and even with this offense only putting up 17 points, we saw Ladd McConkey dominant in the first half. I think he had 8 catches for about 112 yards. But he did pick up a little bit of an injury, wasn't playing all the second half. And when you look at this Chargers offense without Ladd McConkey, it's really just it's a rough look. And obviously J.K. Dobbins as well. Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal, the rookie, were the two main ball carriers. They only got 56 yards on the ground, weren't great there. And after McConkey, you got Quentin Johnston, who he has had issues. Josh Palmer, Stone Smart, Darius Davis, Scott Matlock, Tucker Fisk. Just not a great receiving room. And right now, John Harbaugh, and this Jim Harbaugh,
Jim
yeah,
Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert have got this team to 8-4. It's really been that defense, like you said, the number one scoring defense. They've been great, and for the Falcons, it's kind of just been a complete 180. This offense was doing great early in the season. Kirk Cousins was having good games, but the offensive lines struggled a little bit, and really he just kind of has fallen out of rhythm. 0 touchdowns, 4 picks, like you said, just a disaster performance. And some of the interceptions were just a very, very tough watch. 26 carries for Bijan. They gave him the ball a lot, but wasn't enough to really get them in the end zone. He does get a touchdown, and we've seen ever since this funk has happened, Darnell Mooney's kind of been quiet recently. Drake London's still got a lot of output. Kyle Pitts, no catches on only 2 targets. Just a really disappointing stretch here from the Falcons. They're going to have to get out of it quickly. Just a really disappointing home loss there. And you got a couple of easy games on the schedule with the Raiders, Giants, and Panthers, but the Buccaneers are hot right now, and it's interesting. If Kirk Cousins can't get it going, who knows? Maybe they consider Michael Penix. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be crazy though. But once again, that pick for Michael Penix looks better and better each week because now they have that out with Kirk Cousins after next year. So maybe they bench Kirk and put in Penix next year, or maybe they let Kirk run out his contract here, and then after 2 years you cut him and you get Michael Penix, who honestly I think could be a pretty decent quarterback in this league. I miss watching him throw those tight spirals at Washington. It was great to see. Hopefully we could see him.
And lefty.
Yeah, and a lefty quarterback, which will be great. But I would love to, him versus Tua would just be weird to watch on the eyes. But
I mean, they could just put the like an inverted camera or whatever.
yeah, imagine just so we could watch it regularly.
Everyone else will look really weird except for them two.
Yeah,
But
it would be fine. I'd be with that. But moving on here to The Buccaneers beating the Panthers in overtime 26-23. Bryce Young and the Panthers have really got some fight in them this past month. Bryce played great in this game, nearly 300 passing yards, no turnovers. He led another drive that should have been a game-winning drive. Unfortunately, it wasn't because McLaughlin was able to hit a big field goal late and Baker was able to take him down with about 30 seconds left. But if it wasn't for a bad Chuba Hubbard fumble in overtime, the Panthers likely win this game. I know he was doing the Stephon Diggs stay on the field all game after that. I don't It's kind of a tough watch, but bad fumble for him. They should have won this game. Baker and the Bucks didn't play their best ball, but they found a way to win, which they're going to need to over this last stretch here. We said they maybe needed to run the table, but I don't. They don't need to run the table anymore because the Falcons are playing so bad. They just got to play good ball here down the stretch, and they're going to have the opportunities to. Two interceptions for Baker in this game, uncharacteristic, but or not really uncharacteristic, but against the Panthers, it definitely is. He got hurt on this game also, and then came back. Bucky Irving dominated 185 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. He was great. Bucks were a horrid 2 for 12 on third down and 2 for 5 in the red zone, but they still found a way to win. That's a mark of a good team. Bucks have the fourth easiest strength of schedule remaining, I believe. Yep, they still have the fourth easiest strength of schedule remaining, and they have a really good shot now tied with Atlanta for the division. I should have placed that bet when I said a couple weeks ago it was a good bet. I unfortunately did not place it, but Bucks are in a good spot. I like them to win the division at this point.
I do as well. This Bucks team struggled in this game, and they still found a way to get it done. Chuba Hubbard had an unfortunate, uncharacteristic fumble from him. He's been great all season, but that fumble really hurt. Jonathan Brooks finally got some action in this game, and he looked good in his limited touches. Bryce Young was great in this game, only took one sack for 9 yards. Just great to see his Panthers O-line starting to give him some time, and he's starting to deliver. Almost 300 yards passing. He's gotten the ball to Adam Thielen, who's been great for them. He made an incredible catch in overtime that unfortunately isn't talked about after the fumble that occurred. Xavier Legette's been good. They were missing Coker again. Hopefully they have him back next week. But the Buccaneers get a huge win. Needed this one. Dealt with the Baker injuries. They fought through it. They were great running the ball with Bucky Irving. He's been a great mid-draft pickup. You saw the Bears actually picked a punter 3 picks before Bucky Irving, so that's just a funny little bit of information there. Mike Evans continues to just be Mr. Consistency. 8 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know if he's going to make it to 1,000 yards this season. What is he sitting at? 521. Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him to hit that 1,000 yard threshold, but he's still great. And this Buccaneers offense has been getting hot. Struggled here a little bit against a pretty poor Panthers defense, but they get the win. That's all that matters. And now they just need to outpace the Falcons.
Okay, moving on here to the Rams beating the Saints 21-14. I thought this would be a high scoring game, but I was dead wrong. This game, literally the opposite of what has the trends have said and what we expected going into this game happened. Carr and the Saints were moving the ball well recently, and the Rams defense has been awful, but both of those things changed here. The Saints weren't able to move it well. The Rams defense looked good. The Saints were able to play through Kamara, like I said, but they just couldn't find the end zone. They were 0 for 2 in the red zone. They've been a solid team in the red zone. They were bad here. Rams, on the other hand, have been moving the ball well, but struggled in the red zone, and that was the exact opposite today. Or yesterday, they went 3 for 3 in the red zone, but just couldn't get down there as much as they wanted to. The Rams were a completely different team in the second half offensively. That is the team that they were in the second half is the team that they need to be going forward. The Rams are one of the most unpredictable teams in the league for me, in my opinion. They're a really weird team. They're sitting at 6-6, but with the Niners losing and falling to 5-7, and the Cardinals losing and falling to 6-6, the Rams are absolutely in the mix for the playoffs and for the division. So if they can find a way to play like this defensively at a consistent basis, they're going to be a good team because I do think their offense is pretty good. But they are able to do some good things in this game, especially in the red zone, especially defensively, and they find a way to win. So Rams go and take it, and move up to 6-6.
Yeah, this is not what I expected either from this game. Saints offense only puts up 14 points. Really didn't have too much going. Unfortunately, Taysom Hill got hurt and will be out for the rest of the season, so that really sucks to see. He had been really becoming a focal point of this offense in recent weeks. And after that, they really didn't have too much going in the passing game. Neither team could really pass the football great, which was just something I wasn't expecting to see at all. Derek Carr only finishes with 184 passing yards. A lot of handoffs to Alvin Kamara. A lot of both of the top running backs, Kamara and Kyron Williams, in this game. Kamara gets 112 yards. Williams gets 104 and a touchdown. For the Rams offense, they were just able to get the ball in the end zone three times. The Saints had to settle for a couple field goals and then got that one touchdown. But a good win for the Rams. Another team. They're still fighting for a playoff hunt at this point. The Saints have pretty much been eliminated. They needed to completely win out and hope for some help at this point. They're kind of sitting right there with the Panthers, where they need the Panthers actually too. Yeah, they can win out, but they just need a ton of help to make the playoffs. Puka Nacua gets a touchdown. Not much Cooper Kupp in this game. The Saints secondary really stepped up. They've been struggling. They had a good game, but the Rams were still able to get it done.
Okay, moving on here to the Eagles beating the Ravens 24 to 19. I'm ready to admit the Eagles are a great team. This is the game they needed to win. They finally played a good team and they went there and they beat the Ravens, which beating Lamar as an NFC team is very impressive. This is a very impressive performance, especially to see their defense playing this well against a good team. I was worried they wouldn't be able to follow their game script of getting the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands, but they found a way to do that. Hurts didn't have to do much in this game, as he hasn't done much in most of the Eagles' wins this year. Eagles offense was not fantastic, but they capitalized on good field position a few times when they needed to. Ravens absolutely shot themselves in the foot in this game. Multiple missed field goals from Justin Tucker, who's having a rough season right now, continuing to add on to this phenomena where the kickers were great in the beginning of the year, and now they're just really, really bad. Ravens had a ton of stalled drives that killed them. They were 2 for 5 in the red zone, and that killed them as well, especially with a lot of those field goals they attempted not going in. Lamar and Henry both had solid games, but it just came down to what defense could get stops in this game, and it ended up being the Eagles. Eagles do have the 10th easiest strength of schedule remaining right now. The Lions have the third, and the Eagles have the Commanders, who they beat the hell out of in Philly earlier this year, and the Steelers, who that's always a good rivalry, but they still get to play the Giants, the Panthers, and the Cowboys. So the Eagles are gonna probably cakewalk to minimum 2 seed with this horrible schedule. The Lions, unfortunately, as the bad luck continues, have to play good teams, so they don't get a freebie walk to 15 wins like the Eagles do. But Eagles are in a good spot for the 1 seed, barring a choke here towards the end. They got to beat these teams they can be. And with the Lions having to play the Vikings and the Packers and the Niners and the Bills, they are one of the favorites for the 1 seed between them and the Lions.
Yeah, that Eagles Steelers game is going to be huge, and the Commanders one. They if they can win both those games, I see them being the 1 seed. Jalen Hurts didn't have to pass the ball too well in this game. Only threw for 118 yards. Was efficient. Got the ball to AJ Brown, but the defense for the Eagles, we had talked about how it's been one of the best in the pass and run game, and it really showed up. They really slowed down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in this team. I mean, Lamar still has 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry has 82 yards, but just were unable to get in the end zone. That was huge. And the Eagles defense is really, they issued a statement in this game and they showed that they're one of the best defenses in the entire NFL, which is going into the season. We knew they had a young secondary, a lot of guys, Cooper DeJean, Kenyon Mitchell, and those guys have really showed up. Cooper DeJean's been great and just very impressive. Hurts to finally lose a Lamar Jackson versus NFC game. He's been so dominant against them. I think this might be his fourth loss, maybe. I think he had
Second,
three. That's only a second. Okay,
he had one loss
The
before you.
fourth. That must have been with just as a player with Joe Flacco
Yeah, yeah.
starting.
As a starter, he had one loss. Now he has two. Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunate there for him. He played decent, but the Eagles defense was very good in this game, and it's going to be really tough for them to catch up to the Steelers at this point.
Yeah, that was it was the battle of the young secondaries going into the I mean the Lions as well, but especially those two teams, young secondaries. Can these teams put it together? Ravens have not been able to put it together recently, and the Eagles have. So that was really the difference, even though Jalen Hurts didn't
Yeah,
do much.
and the kicker for the Ravens, Justin Tucker, struggling as well.
Yeah, just
It's been a very
unbelievable.
tough season for him. He was 2 for 4 in this game.
They win the game if
Uh,
he makes those,
yeah, he's sitting at 70% field goal percentage right now, which
which
is
is wild.
40th in the NFL.
Yeah, that's insane. But watch him figure it out at some point. They said he's been bad ever since the Travis
The
Kelsey T incident.
Yeah,
Just I
there's
seeing that
they
video
have
again was
magic. They have some
hilarious.
sort
But
of magic, man.
But we'll finish off here with Sunday Night Football. Bills beating the Niners 35-10. The Bills are just a juggernaut right now. They're playing great football. The Niners are playing really bad football. Conditions were just way too much for the 49ers offense. Just 40 or 94 yards for Brock Purdy. No Trent Williams in this game. Absolutely killed the Niners in this one. He's one of the most important players on this team. Run game for the 49ers wasn't awful, but CMC is now out for what I believe to be the season because I don't think the Niners are going to be able to make the playoffs at 10-7 if they even do win out, which I don't see happening. But I guess yeah, maybe they'll make it at 10-7 if they win out, but I just don't think they're going to win out at this point. So Christian McCaffrey's probably out for the year. Three fumbles for the 49ers was really, really bad, and none of them came from running backs, unless you count Juszczyk, but Juszczyk, Purdy, and Deebo Samuel all fumbling hurt them so badly. Bills scored 5 touchdowns on their first 8 drives of this game. The Niners defense just got absolutely torched. Josh Allen had 2 touchdowns on one play in this game, which is just ridiculous. He looks like the MVP right now. The Niners, they moved to 5-7. They still have the 13th hardest strength of schedule remaining, so that's why I really don't see a world where they win out. And I don't think a 9-8 team is making the playoffs in the NFC. So I think they have to win out if they want in. The Bills, on the other hand, they're in the driver's seat. They clinched the division. They have the 25th remaining strength of schedule, and they have a really good shot at the 1 seed. They just need some help from Kansas City, and they're obviously going to need to go into Detroit and beat the Lions, which is a tough task, but they're playing great football right now, so they have a real shot at that 1 seed.
Yeah, and outside of that Lions game, they have a lot of winnable games on their schedule. They should win the two home games they have left. Patriots, Jets, and finish undefeated at home on the season. And then you just got at Pats and at Rams outside that Lions game. I think they should win both of those games. It's really just that Lions one, like you said. This Bills team at home is just very, very good. And when the conditions are like this, if there's any team in the NFL that I would take to win a snow game at this point, I think it would be the Bills over pretty much any team. They just know how to, they're used to the conditions. They play on them more than any other team, it feels like. They ran the ball great with James Cook. He has a huge 65-yard touchdown. Ray Davis was great on the ground as well. And obviously, you have Josh Allen, who's a dual threat quarterback. He can get it done on the ground as well. Just a really bad matchup for the Niners in this game. San Francisco team going to the cold weather. This is why all those SEC teams down south are petitioning for their teams to be higher in the playoff and wanting that many teams in because coming up to a Ohio State in a snow game, that's not something the SEC or Penn State, something those SEC teams are used to. And we saw that with the Niners. Unfortunate, the CMC injury. We also saw Jordan Mason get injured. He'll be out for a minimum 4 weeks. So it's going to be a lot of Isaac Guerriendo. And Deebo Samuel continues to struggle. Hasn't been good all season. That continues. He got the fumble on the kick return, only 4 catches for 20 yards. Not much Kittle in his first game back. Just everything that has gone wrong for the Niners feels like it has gone. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. And like you said, that tough strength of schedule. The Bears still, that's going to be a tough game. They got the Rams, which it's going to be a must win for both teams. And then Dolphins, Lions, Cardinals. I just don't see them winning out at all.
Yeah, and Debo though has been pretty good on kick returns though. Outside of the
Yeah,
fumble, he's been getting a good yard at the whole game yesterday. He was getting great yardage.
yeah. I
What's those
just
yards kind of for fantasy?
Yeah, it's I don't know why he never really sees the ball anymore. I get that you got CMC, but even when Jordan Mason was the lead back, you didn't see Deebo Samuel getting as much action as he has.
Even without Ayuk.
Yeah, and out Ayuk as well. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting to me.
He needs to change his number back is what he needs to do.
Yeah,
But we'll move on here to our studs and duds. My stud of the week is going to be the rookie Bucky Irving. 25 carries for 152 in this game. Also had 3 catches for 33. He gets in the end zone, had a 40-yard run in this game, a 16-yard reception. He is a little banged up. He's questionable for next week. But he's been so good for the Bucks. This is a team that's really struggled to run the ball over the past 2 years, and he's come in there with the help of Rashad White and been able to dominate. And he had 7.3 yards per carry or 5.6 yards per carry 2 games ago against the Niners, 7.3 last week against the Giants, and then 6.1 this week against the Panthers. So he's been great. I think he's going to be a great back in this league. And if the Bucks can get better as a run blocking team, he's just going to get better.
I have two guys I'm deciding between. I'm just going to give an honorable mention to Josh Allen. Then he was great, obviously huge game, dominated the Niners. But I'm going to give my stud of the week to Brock Bowers. It feels like he's earned at least one of these studs of the weeks with how he's been this season. Another rookie. He's been fantastic. Got a touchdown, 10 catches, 140 yards. he was just great in this game, and he's really a huge weapon for this Raiders offense.
Okay, my dud of the week is going to be the Bengals defense as a whole. They've been just such a bad unit over this entire season. Their offense has been phenomenal, especially in the passing game. And you would think with all those passing stats, having one of the highest leading quarterbacks, the highest leading receiver, and you're not able to win games, it's completely on the defense. They gave up 520 total yards in this game on 66 plays. That's 8 yards per play from the Steelers. They gave Russell Wilson his best game since leaving Seattle. Yards per pass, 10.3. They were not really able to generate a pass rush, 110 yards on the ground. It was very, very brutal for the Bengals defense, and they continue to have a nightmare season.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't pick Kirk Cousins. I was completely expecting you to.
Yeah, I
Uh,
kind of forgot about him.
so my honorable mention then will be just because we can only do it one more time, most likely Matt Eberflus,
Yep,
Caleb Williams, and them for their terrible clock management. But my dud of the week then will be Kirk Cousins,
there you go. Making
245
you do
passing
it's even
yards.
better, honestly.
I
That's
mean, he had a bad week. I'll admit when he has a bad
yeah.
week. No touchdowns, 4 picks, a couple just terrible throws in the red area. Rough performance from him. And he's got to turn it around quick, or he might be seeing himself on the bench.
All right, that will about do it for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. We will be back tomorrow to talk about this past week's Monday Night Football game. We'll talk about rivalry week in college football, which was very entertaining, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of playoff scenarios to break down in that one, as well as getting you ready for week 14 of the NFL season, 6 buys this week, and a little teaser a week from today. We will be talking about the NBA for the first time, as we will only have a few games to recap of the NFL. But until then, if you made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit all the links in our description for TikTok, Twitter, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.